Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has pledged to smash what he calls the class ceiling if his party wins the next election.
Yeah, he'll start by reforming education. He says speaking lessons should be just as important as maths and English. But the question that's been asked this morning, can an Oxford-educated barrister really relate to working-class kids? Well, we're pleased to say that Sir Keir Starmer joins us now this morning. Good morning to you, Sir Keir. Thank you for joining us this morning. Can you just respond to that question that some of our viewers will be saying this morning, that, you know, your education, you come from Oxford, you're a barrister, you're a knight of the realm. Can you really identify with what working-class children are going through in state education?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very, very pleased to have that, by the way, as the first question, because this mission we're setting out today to smash the class ceiling and to make sure where you start in life doesn't determine where you end is, in a way, my personal story. My dad was a toolmaker. He worked in a factory all his life. My mum was a nurse until she was too ill to be able to work anymore, and we didn't have a lot of money. And so I came from a classic working-class background, but because of the opportunities that I had through education and other things, I was able to do what all working-class families want, which is to achieve the aspiration, the opportunity that I had to, in the end, become the head of the Crown Prosecution Service and now the leader of the Labour Party. So I know what that aspiration feels like for working people, working families across the country. And I want every child to have that opportunity. At the moment, still, even in 2023, too many children and young people are held back and end up with their future determined more by the earnings of their parents than their own talent.
I want to exercise my own powers of oracy. I want to exercise my own powers of oracy and interrupt you there. Otherwise, I can see we're going to get a lecture on it. There are other things people say need to be improved in education before we saddle teachers with giving more lessons. One of those things might be to solve the teachers' strike. Would you back the pay review body's recommendation of the increase for teachers' wages?
Well, we'll have to wait and see what it actually says. I think they've delivered their recommendation to the government, and the government's now sitting on the report, so we'll see what it says. But do I want this dispute resolved? You bet I do. Every day children are out of school is a day that's very damaging for them, so I want the government around the table to resolve that issue. But I don't want to
we expect the pay review body to recommend... We expect the pay review body to recommend a 6.5% rise for teachers. Would you back that recommendation, whether it's that or whatever it is? It's the independent pay review body. Will you commit to backing what they recommend?
Look, I'll wait and see what they do recommend, and then I'll happily come back on and answer your questions. But I think that the most important thing is for the parties to get around the table. The government hasn't been around the table negotiating for weeks on end.
It doesn't,
During
to be
that
honest,
time, children have been out on strike.
A 6.5% increase isn't going to break the bank, is it? Why wouldn't you back that recommendation?
Look, I'm going to wait and see what they say, and what I would do if I was in government is make sure that Bridget Phillipson, my Shadow Secretary of State, was around the table every day of the week until this was resolved. But what I'm addressing today, I accept there are immediate issues that need to be resolved, I absolutely get that. But one of the problems I think we've had for the last 13 years or so is that we're always doing the sticking plaster stuff. What do we do to fix the problem now? But we never do the longer-term change. Right. And for children and young people who are being held back by this, we need to make the change that I'm setting out today.
We need to value our teachers, don't we? We need to value our teachers because then they can do their jobs better.
You can't implement vision if the teachers aren't in the classroom. One of the accusations that...
Let me take that on. Let me take that on straight away. I mean, you're absolutely right. One of the problems we've got is that we don't have enough teachers in shortage areas like maths and physics. So many children and young people are being taught maths and physics by teachers who aren't specialists in those areas. So amongst the plan, or within the plan I'm setting out today, is to recruit 6,500 more teachers in those shortage areas. And families watching this, parents watching this, will know just how important it is for their children to be taught by, maths and physics in particular, by teachers who are qualified in those subjects. So that's a big commitment today. And we've set out, by the way, how we'll pay for it, because there's a tax break for private schools would use that directly to recruit these teachers. There's another mechanism for retaining teachers, so we do need to address that. But there are longer-term issues. This flatlining of holding people back, where you start in life, is too often where you end. We've got to break that. That is a longer-term project. I accept that. Our viewers will be absolutely determined that we will smash that class ceiling.
Our viewers will be sort of absolutely nodding in agreement, saying this is exactly what we need for our children. But the thing that will concern them, and it was something that came up earlier in the show, is the number of pledges and commitments that Labour have made over the last few years and actually gone back on them, done U-turns on them, or left them completely, tuition fees being one of them, of course, and free school meals. I know that you're committing to breakfast clubs, but primary school meals for all children.
Yeah.
Why should they believe that you're going to stick to these commitments, Sir Keir, when you've turned your back on so many in the past?
Well, what we've set out with these 5 missions, I've set out 5 missions, which is intended to be the sort of driving purpose of an incoming Labour government, to tell you what you can expect over 5 or even 10 years of a Labour government. What's the difference you'll see in Britain? We're setting them out, and each thing that we say in them is fully costed. Now, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that as we get closer and closer to that election, if we're privileged to win it, and I know we've got to earn every vote, we're going to inherit a really badly damaged economy after the last 13 years of this government, really badly damaged public services, including in health and education, and therefore I don't want to make promises I can't keep. And therefore what these missions are saying, these are the 5 things that I think will make the biggest difference to our country.
But if you inherit the government and an economy that's in a bad way, what you're saying, it's almost like you're giving yourself a caveat. You may not be able to deliver on those things that you're committing to now.
Well, the way I say it is this. These 5 missions, including this one about breaking the link between where you start in life and where you finish, they are the things that will drive us. They're the priorities. I accept the challenge you put to me, which is there may be other things which a Labour government would want to do that we won't be able to do. So this is about priorities, and it's about saying these 5 things are my 5 priorities, the big change that I want to see for our country. And I feel so strongly that children and young people need to be able to have the chance, the opportunity to fulfil their aspiration. This is what every family wants for their child. And I'm not going to say, well, that's not a priority. That will be a priority. If that means I have to say there are other things we can't do, well, so be it, because of the situation we'll inherit. That will be tough choices, but this is a priority. This is what will be a game changer for parents, for children and young people, and they've been held back for far, far too long. These are plans which, if implemented, will make a huge difference for generations to come.
OK. Sir Keir Starmer, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.